Behind me is the Los Angeles Convention Center, the home of the Electronic Entertainment Expo. My name is Cyril Lachelle, and today we're going to take a look back at 2002, the first year I attended E3. As we look at the exterior of the convention center from a few different angles, I just want to set this video up. I'm posting this because E3 is just a few days away, and I recently came across two old memory cards filled with pictures from my 2002 trip. I was immediately reminded of how much fun I had, and I wanted to share some of my memories with you. Before we go inside the convention center, we have to drive across town to the Sony press conference. This took place a couple days ahead of E3, and, as always, Sony was there to ply the press with alcohol. Drunk and bored, I took a lot of pictures of Sony's waiting area. Looking back at it now, I see that I snapped a picture of Jeff Gerstmann. And is that a young Jeff Keighley? Inside the press conference was a wall of monitors of varying sizes. This is a setup Sony continued to use throughout the 2000s. This is Sony's dopey slogan 2 years after the launch of the PlayStation 2. Kaz Hirai takes the stage. But before we get into Kaz, can we talk about how great my seats are? I'm only 4 rows back, and I don't even need to use the zoom on my crappy 2002 digital camera. But I do anyway, because I want to document Kaz Hirai's killer fashion sense. Kaz lays out a vision of the future, including third-party exclusives. He misidentifies Soul Calibur 2 as a PlayStation 2 exclusive, when in actuality Namco had already announced it to be multi-platform. And you better believe Kaz took this opportunity to trumpet the unexpected success of Grand Theft Auto 3, a game that had been all but ignored by E3 attendees just 1 year earlier. This was the first year Sony decided to get serious about the internet. They found that 91% of people access the internet at home, since this is 2002 and nobody had smartphones. This was also a time when only 23% considered themselves to be online gamers, and only 35% of the population had broadband. Their solution was the Network Adapter Startup Package, which I still have. It's nice to see that Harmonic's seminal Frequency also made the bullet list. With that out of the way, it was time to bring on a star athlete to pretend to play a sports game against a guy in an expensive suit. This is a cliche we continue to see every year. Yeah, for once I found myself agreeing with John Madden. Up next was the Nintendo press conference. It was standing room only, and my placement was awful. Also, no alcohol. I'm not sure what Nintendo announced at this press conference because it was 400 degrees and I was about to pass out. Back at the convention center, it's time to walk through the doors and be overwhelmed by the signage. First things first, I need to check in and get my badge. As we look at different angles at the entrance, it's important for me to note that this was not my first press conference. Before E3, I had covered the Consumer Electronics Show every year between 1993 and 1996. I knew what I was getting myself into and felt like a seasoned pro. Inside the West Hall, we have the PlayStation booth, a sprawling piece of real estate full of neon lights. Sony's big game at the show was The Getaway, an ambitious open-world action game that had the unfortunate luck of following Grand Theft Auto 3. From above, it's clear that Sony's booth was both a mix of first and third-party games. I guess some things never change. This Stuart Little 2 display didn't get a lot of use. This was a time before EA controlled the NFL license, so 989 Studios was still churning out installments of Game Day. Here we see the Xbox booth. A lot of companies use attractive women and cosplay to attract showgoers to their booth. That's the route Guilty Gear decided to go. And Activision, and Logitech, and Gothic, and Dragon's Lair. However, Pelican Accessories went an entirely different direction. They had a gambling theme, which seems like it would have been more appropriate at CES. Nintendo didn't need sexy women to attract people to their booth. This friendly Nintendo rep took me on a tour, which included a strong lineup of first-party games, the Wavebird wireless controller, the e-reader, Super Mario Sunshine, Mario Party, and a few other familiar faces. Let's not forget that Nintendo was still using the Game Boy brand to sell handhelds. Unfortunately, not every booth could be as popular as Nintendo. Here we see the ESRB. This DVD with a woman's butt on the cover also didn't get much traffic. Opening the Xbox is a book about Microsoft's console, and it too had a hard time attracting attention. though I'm sure it had nothing to do with the signage. Seeing as how we're halfway through the day, I think it's time for lunch. If you've ever been to a convention before, then you already know to expect high prices and a serious lack of seating. If you choose wrong, they'll cage you in and you'll become part of tomorrow's lunch. Back on the show floor, we pour one out for Sega Sports. This was the year Sega decided to resurrect Shinobi. Vector Man was also playable, but I don't have any pictures of that. What I do have is this picture of Sega's backstage area. It's not especially interesting. On the other hand, this Simon & Schuster interactive booth was hopping. America's Army always likes to make a big entrance. Show-offs. Konami recently broke our hearts, but they had a solid showing back in 2002. And yes, I do mean Solid Snake. They also had a big display for Contra, and more Contra, and even Contra with Castlevania. Other big games on the show floor included 13, some crappy Tomb Raider game nobody remembers, Mace, Rocky, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Tron 2.0, Mary-Kate and Ashley, Kingdom Hearts, and whatever else was found in the Squaresoft booth. Hey, nice hair. Believe it or not, this is the invitation-only Rockstar booth. They had just announced Grand Theft Auto Vice City, but weren't showing off anything just yet. This guy gave me a Love Media shirt. Activision decided to set up a half-pipe to celebrate Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I quickly realized that my camera wasn't ideal for taking action shots. Off to the sides are the meeting rooms, which is where developers will show off games not even on the show floor. Like Arrow the Acrobat, I guess. Here is the Ziff Davis booth. This was always one of my favorite parts of going to conventions, picking up free magazines. And here's the GameSpot booth. They didn't have much to give out. If your outlet wasn't big enough to buy a booth, then you can always use the bank of computers with internet access, or call your editors on the payphone, like it's the 1960s. It wouldn't be a trip to E3 without visiting Kentia Hall. Here you'll find the best in robots, and the worst in robots. You'll also find the resurrected Power Glove. No, seriously, I spent a good half hour trying this glove out with different PlayStation 2 games. This guy was into it, but it just made me hate motion gaming. As I walked through the convention center on the final days of E3, I started to reflect what I had experienced. While the games weren't great and there was no major system announced, it was still a good E3. But at the same time, it had the usual dumb shit. Like people playing dumb carnival games that have nothing to do with video games. And cars from movies that have nothing to do with video games. And Tommy Tallarico arguing with Victor Lucas. But it was also a place to catch up with old friends, hang out with colleagues, become your own cameraman, buy expensive merch, and then get chased by security guards in a golf cart. No matter who you are, E3 is tiring, but if you play it right, you'll want to come back every year. Hi, thanks for watching my video. This is the first of several E3 features leading up to the big event. If you're still interested in listening to me talk about old-timey conventions, I recommend you check out my look back at PAX 2006. This time around I actually had video, though it's not especially high quality. Let me know what you expect to happen at this year's E3 in the comment section below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you next time.